Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Kerton. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. I want to tell you a story about how my knowledge vulnerability has played out in the development of my own businesses, because I have a feeling that if I looked inside of your emails right now, I might find an unwatched webinar or two, maybe a bookmarked tutorial or masterclass somewhere in the tabs, a bunch of emails probably from coaches and experts on random topics of interest. Or it might be a bit more heavy-handed like mine is, because if you took a look inside my emails, you will find access to around, I'm going to say 500 hours of unwatched, unread professional development. And I think this is because, like most of us, throughout my entrepreneurial journey so far, I've been profoundly vulnerable to the fact that there's just so much I want and need to learn that almost every single topic I'm cleverly marketed to and about seems absolutely pivotal right now in this moment. There's, of course, the free webinars I signed up for on SEO, email marketing, clever tech tools, all the way through to business mindset, productivity hacks, and pricing strategies. They're just the ones I signed up for that were free access, because then there's the ones that I pay for. There's the international conference on podcasting I couldn't afford to attend last year, so I bought the recording access instead. And this is hours and hours of podcast nerd out education that I would just love to get to, but it is trapped in my mobile device on the events app. And it's been there for so long, there's even been a new conference. This one is actually very relevant. And sharing this chat with you has reminded me to perhaps get around that one. But anyway, there's also the Meta Ads Management course, which I signed up for despite not being entirely ready to dip into paid ads. There's the LinkedIn Level Up course, the Chat GPT Glow Up. And this isn't even considering the paid business groups I'm a part of, who have consistent and very considered masterclasses on everything from cybersecurity to trend forecasting, Web3, cash flow management, and every other possible topic I feel like I just have to know something about at some stage. And in the moment when I'm hearing about said masterclass, it just feels like the most important thing that I could do with my time. Now, look, it's worth noting that the quantity I consume, or want to consume rather, is a pretty foundational and fundamental piece of how I work in strategy development, which does require a multidisciplinary approach. And I am generally a bit of a nerd and deeply curious, and often going down rabbit holes that can become relevant at the most random of times in the strategic work that I do in branded podcast content and in the running and planning of my own businesses, this pod and my consulting work. Perhaps this has made me overly sensitive to the desire to consume as much as I can, but it feels like it could be something that's shared pretty well across the board. And I believe there's a tipping point. There's a point in which it gets harder to decipher what's necessary knowledge for us in our businesses for right now, later, or actually not at all. And when it's our vulnerabilities being played to rather than the knowledge jumping out that you really need, it makes it a lot harder to figure out. In this same vein, through the building of your business, you've probably racked up a screen time that edges on what the actual fuck, if you're anything like me. Social media used to be just for fun, but now we're always hit with the content inspo that you save for later, the competitors that are in your space that seem to be able to pump out more and better content than you consistently. This one gets my goat, and a whole lot of content that just feels like entertainment or light education, but actually perfectly plays to the pain or passion points. Geez, there's a lot of P's in that sentence. I'm surprised I got that out for you. But it plays to that to elicit an I must know this and I must take action right now energy. And that, of course, plays right into the call to action by the creator creating said content. Join my mailing list and receive the free download I created for you. Sign up to the webinar to learn more. And then all of a sudden you're in a sales funnel and everything feels important. And let me be clear, this is no shade on the many great business leaders working for us in this way and actually providing the great content that we need, the great learnings that we need, and making a profitable business from it, which absolutely needs to happen. We all deserve to be paid for the knowledge that we share. But what I'm talking about is that tipping point where positive growth and the seeking of knowledge becomes toxic procrastination for us and a decrease in our self confidence. And the existential dread that the things on our to do lists, on my to do lists, that are relevant for our own development and upskilling just sit there, filling up prime cognitive real estate and fueling our fear that we're not going well enough, learning enough, doing enough, or that we'll never feel okay about knocking off or pulling back for a little bit of a break. Whew, that felt almost like therapy, getting some of that out. But the reason for sharing it is because when you're starting or growing a business, the scale of topics and necessary knowledge that become relevant to us is simply mind boggling. If you're a solopreneur or someone with just a few amazing team members, it absolutely can feel like you need to know and do everything now. Super overwhelming. I have consumed so many newsletters, articles, podcasts, mini masterclasses before even getting around to creating this episode for you. It is scary and it's hard to draw a line, especially now when our entertainment spaces are really just marketing TV, right? Like I love an Instagram or TikTok hole just as much as the next person, but there's a starkness and a disparity of numbers between the friends who still use it for personal and only post when they're on holidays or doing something that reminds them that this is a moment worth sharing. And then there's the rest of us that are trying to build an audience, a profile and a business, be ourselves while we're doing it, make genuine connections while we're doing it, but we're there for a bit of a purpose. If I look through the veil, even in my own feed, and perhaps it's the same in yours, I'm pretty confident in saying that 80% of my social media feed is a marketing message of some form. It is somewhere on the funnel, some direct, some subtle, and it's pretty likely that you too, like I do, use the channels for this as well. Organic content is a necessary part of our business building. It can be a lot of fun, and we do need to sell ourselves as the expert in the field. I have to sell myself as the expert in my field and the expert that I am so that I can attract the amazing clients I want to work with. But what I'm talking about here is more personal. It's the personal dreaded sense that we have to jump on this thing right now, this trend. We have to be on this platform. We have to sign up for this thing or work with this person right now. And it is, more often than not, highly counterproductive. All of it tells us something that we should stop scrolling right now and pay attention to what we're being told. It's absolutely designed that way. It is fundamentally true that running a business, building a business, plays into every fear you have as an individual. And many that you didn't think would be there, which we have to laugh at, which is actually a great thing because it empowers you to lean into those edges that you can often shy away from and grow exponentially. But the overwhelm of everything you don't yet know that is constantly reinforced by the marketing messages that you consume can get you down and stop you from moving forward. And with such a high cognitive load in this gig, it can feel virtually impossible to gain your control back. And we've just got to recognize that without some serious self-awareness and critical thinking, our relaxed scrolling becomes virtually impossible for us without the content somehow triggering us and making us feel like we're not doing enough or not doing the right thing. And it's the truth that through this gig of being a business owner, we are all a little bit more vulnerable to handing over our cash to people we think can solve our very many problems, to outsourcing everything we don't know or think we don't know enough of yet to somebody else who may be able to take that feeling of fear, insecurity, and self-doubt away. Not just the webinars, but I'm talking about the high investment courses and coaches, many of which are brilliant and hugely valuable, provided we've scratched the surface on them, I will say that. But feeling like you need all of them at once it's a lot. And it can weigh a heavy load on our self-belief, particularly if you want them and your current cash flow situation doesn't yet enable you to work with others or pay for education or outsource anything. I have definitely felt that one. It's a compound effect on our self belief in what we can achieve. And I believe it's got a huge impact, a negative impact on us as humans and on our potential as business owners. I'm reading quite the obscure book at the moment, obscure for me, called Poor Charlie's Almanac. It's an eclectic gathering of thoughts, ideas, and idioms from investment mogul Charlie Munger. And one of the key themes I'm taking away from much of it, I'm only halfway through, but already, it's the need for critical thinking about the intent of others and our own limitations in every major decision we make, none more so than the decisions we make for our business, our profession, and our wealth. I highlighted this bit in my Kindle for you. Charlie said, if in your thinking you rely entirely on others, often through purchase of professional advice, whenever outside a small territory of your own, you will suffer much calamity. He also said it is not usually the conscious wrongdoing of your narrow professional advisor that does you in. Instead, your troubles come from their subconscious bias. Their cognition will be impaired for your purposes by financial incentives different from yours, and they will also suffer from the psychological defect caught by the proverb, to a person with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Now, I edited that slightly because it was heavily profiled with male identity throughout, as many sharings from humans of this man's generation are. No shade, but no need to perpetuate that. So, hence the soft editing. But it really got me thinking. Critical thought about our desire to reach out for help is necessary, as is getting the help along the way for sure when we need it. But is it the thing we really need in the moment? Or are we procrastinating? Wanting the pain of the struggle we're experiencing to be taken by somebody else just for a moment to give us a breather? Or are we doubting and being caused to doubt what we already know? And so want more reinforcement or courage that we can be an expert in that thing by learning just a little bit more. Now, I promise this isn't an episode where I edge you towards selling you a solution, aka all of social and digital funnels, which again, I fully appreciate and support. I'm just waxing lyrical on what has been a rather large source of distraction for me. And after chatting to 100 odd other business owners just like you, I have a feeling that you could relate to this. And I will share the strategy I'm trying to employ to reduce the overwhelm and distraction of trying to consume every piece of knowledge and work with every single epic educator, which isn't possible for me at this stage in my business. Maybe it will be in the future. And the solution that I'm employing is a bit embarrassing to say because it is so damn obvious. But I've been making time to do nothing, like jack shit nothing. Last week, I got served something up on my Instagram, and it made me feel hugely unsettled and it amplified some self-doubt. I'm in a hugely competitive industry and every algorithm on the planet knows that I want that podcast relative content. So it feels that I just endlessly get served information and content by someone who is appearing to do it better, do it louder, do it with more backing, whether that be financial backing, whether that be from a previous privilege, whether that be from being further along in the journey and, backing from support, who knows, right? It's just, it feels like they're doing it better. And when that happens last week, which was especially annoying as my confidence never been higher, but when it happened last week, usually I would want to either work my way through it, as in almost like punish myself for where I'm at by taking on as much as I can do or taking some sort of action, potentially like signing up for another bloody webinar that I don't attend or have the time to rewatch, or I might do the opposite and totally numb out with content distraction of some form, like more social media, a novel I can get lost in, or a TV binge of reality TV. Thank you, Housewives. But this time I decided to ruminate in the feeling. I literally laid on my bed for an hour staring up at the roof. This is very unusual for me. If you're someone who takes some time just to be quiet and think, I want to hear from you. You are like a magician, but it is not me. It's not my normal sense. And so I just let myself lay there. I let the thoughts come and go and acknowledged how I was feeling and why I was so riled up. I do appreciate this is a privilege I give for my friends with small people demanding attention. I'm sorry if I have just amplified a frustration. I didn't mean to, but in my circumstance, I was able to just hide for an hour. After a little while, I had some ideas float in. random thoughts, random ideas, the kind of ones that you want to like leap into your notes app and capture. But I decided for once just to chill on it, not give myself more to do, more to review, more to refine. I just kept thinking and letting it flow. I followed myself down the cognitive rabbit hole and was pleasantly surprised by what I already knew and what was within me to help me focus and move forward and get that feeling of frustration and envy and what on earth do I do next that I was stuck on unstuck. Now, I appreciate that this example is a little bit ambiguous and purposely so, as I don't necessarily want to bore you with the idiosyncrasies of my business in every single episode, as this is for you. And in case it helps you with your struggles, I don't want it to be too niche and relative to my own experience. But if you want to know more, just slide into my DMs and I'll tell you. But the key takeaway is that through engaging with a little bit of quiet, hiding from the noise of others for just a little bit, I was able to re-employ some critical thinking and confidence in myself that I know quite a bit already. Like I kind of know what I need to do here. It's just about giving myself the confidence to focus on it and the confidence to move forward and trust that whatever I produce is going to be right because it's going to be something. And it was enough to keep me moving forward without taking any drastic action, distractible action, or over investing financially or time-wise in something or someone that takes the responsibility away from me and not hating myself for wanting to do that and not being able to. I reckon it's a pretty safe bet that before the social media of today, we trusted ourselves a little bit more. I already know so much about all of the areas of my business that I need to work on, be it from the previous education I have deep dived on or through osmosis learning that's just in there somewhere. And I can do the basics. I might not feel like it's all perfect or it's up to the level I see from others, but I can do something which is better than doing nothing, which is more of what happens when I'm worried about not doing it perfectly or not knowing enough. And when it comes to my industry of podcasting, this pod and my brand work in the brand owned podcast consulting firm, I know a bloody lot about podcasting. No one can know everything about a topic. And it's important that we don't stop our progress by over obsessing and over consuming everything we can on the topic at the expense of creating, sharing, and growing the business and believing in the depth of knowledge we already hold. So if you happen to have a list of masterclasses or webinars or newsletters stacking up to, here is how I'm approaching it, aside from the quiet time that I'm going to do a little bit more of. Put each individual study element, be it that webinar or masterclass or book, on its own little post-it or its own little device that, however you employ your own organizational system, and place it somewhere visual, knowing that it's for times of clearer headspace. Get it off the to-do list and out of the calendar. And before investing in further study, give yourself time to consider what you already know. Ask yourself why you're thinking about doing this. What is it about right now that makes that feel like it's going to move the needle for you? You may still choose to go ahead with it and outsource. It may absolutely be the right thing, but you'll feel more confident in the active choice before going in. A bit of a laugh side note, as I was writing this episode for you, I got up to the bit I just shared and stopped and flicked over to my emails. I'm a chronic task switcher when I have too much on. And there was a newsletter about some cool new masterclasses on a platform I'm signed up for. And legit, I now have two open in a new tab. Why am I like this? But I'm employing my own advice. I know it's there. I've added it to a post-it note, my preferred organizational method for a later date, as doing the work right now, really working on putting myself out there and putting my ideas out there now is simply more important than procrastinating on what I don't know or think I don't know or could pay to know. Trust that you know enough to keep moving forward and know that when something feels like it needs your attention or you feel like someone could solve your problem, just allow yourself to check yourself for a few minutes. Deep dive on the need, the person offering it, and your own personal biases. If you still feel like it's right and you trust it, go for it and enjoy the ride. Then back yourself on putting everything you learn into action. Do not let the learning take away from the action. I hope this share has helped you feel a little bit more supported with your own cognitive overload. It's something that I would love to hear from you and get your thoughts on this episode, this podcast. And of course, I would love you to consider, if it is supporting you, to support the show, to support my show by shouting me a cuppa on the Buy Me a Coffee platform, the link to which you can access in the show notes of this podcast wherever you're listening. I'm here to help more of us start and stay in business, myself included, with the goal to support 10,000 business owners, then 100,000. And by showing up here, it means that you're helping me with this goal. So make sure to tell your business friends about the show too. Keep listening and share it on socials because let's be honest, we're all on there too much. But by sharing this with your friends, by engaging with it yourself, you are helping me on that goal to help so many more of us start and stay in business. I hope to see you in the DMs. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Kerton. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.